Hey guys, and welcome back to G's Autos. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, we finally made it to part two video for the repairs on the EL. This has just dragged on and on and on for weeks and weeks. Just so much rain on the weekends. You go to do work on the car, it starts raining, you go back inside, it stops, and it's just been going on and on and on. So the car has been fully fixed. It's been roadworthy, it's now regoed, it's now on the road, it's now had a complete detail. So we're going to be working through these videos in the next week or two. So anyway guys, as I said, we finally got to part two. The video hasn't worked out exactly how I wanted it to, just because of all the stop starts and then trying to get stuff done in between rain, and I just didn't get all the video footage that I wanted to. So I do apologise if this video seems a bit stop and start and it ends abruptly. I do apologise, just all due to the rain and limited time. Anyway guys, enough out of me. I hope you liked the video. If you do, give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more content on the channel, please subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And I'll get more videos out soon on the EL. Thanks guys, hope you liked the video. Alright guys, so it's a week later now, and I have my water pump. So it's a GMB pump. I've used them before. I've been very happy with their quality. Never had an issue. So what I need to do now is back the tensioner off so I can take the belt off. So to do that, I've just got my 3/8 half-inch adapter, so the 3/8 end just goes in the tensioner like so. I'll put my breaker bar in there, and then I just need to lever this back this way, and that'll take the tension off. And while I'm holding that back, I can then slip that belt off and just give me access to that water pump. So there's just 4 bolts holding that pump on. So let's give it a crack. Alright guys, so I am fumbling my way through this and learning as I go. So I did need to remove the, not remove it, but just get it out of the way, which is the power steering pump, to give myself a bit more access. So there were a number of fasteners holding that in place, the power steering pump. So we had two 17mm bolts, they're the two 17s. These guys were, what were they? They were 13s and then a couple of 10s. So now that I've got that out of the way, I'm guessing I might have to take this pulley off to get to this one there. I'll see how I go. Anyway, let's keep moving on. Alright, so I've managed to crack the 4 bolts for the water pump without having to remove the pulley. Now, one of the biggest problems I have with doing mechanical stuff is that I don't always have the right tool for doing a particular job. So I just had to go down the road and pick up a 10mm ratchet spanner and a set of, these things, I don't know what they call them. Just gives me a bit of room to work with. Anyway, I'll keep pushing on. Okay, so that's a victory for me. The water pump is off. I did need to undo the alternator bracket, which is a 13mm bolt there. I've just slotted the bolt back in so I don't lose it. But the water pump is off. I now need to clean up that surface, the mating surface for the water pump. But what I am going to do is go and clean up all this grease down here best I can, just make it look a little bit better before we move on. Alright, so the surface is pretty clean. I have removed the O-ring. It was pretty dry and crusty. Now I'm just going to go over and clean up any of the crud that's sitting on the outside of that pipe. Now I can start putting it all back together. I needed to remove this bracket to just give me a bit more space to actually get in here and try and clean some of the old gasket material off. Alright, so I've just got the water pump gently sitting there. I have replaced that O-ring, so I just had to get some thread locker. I've just picked up some medium strength thread locker. I think that'll be good enough for the bolts. Now I'm just going to put some thread locker on and start putting those bolts in and get that tensioned up. Alright guys, so I found it easier just to take it off the car, put it onto the bench, drop these bolts in. They just needed a little gentle tap with the hammer just to pop them in, because they do go in at a little bit of an angle, but they're all good now, and I'll bolt that up. Alright, the rain has finally arrived, and it looks like it's set in for the day. Anyway, here's the radiator. Brand spanking newbie. Let's take a look at where we're up to. Alright, everything is in and buttoned up. That bottom 10mm was a little bit cheeky to try and tighten up, but I think I've tightened it up pretty good. My main concern here is just to make sure that that little O-ring on that water pipe that connects to the back of the water pump, hopefully that O-ring stayed in place. Fingers crossed, okay? But everything else is done up, no bolts missing, everything tightened up. So what I'm going to do now is drop the radiator in. And I need to make sure that that top one and that bottom one go in nice and square and tighten up really good so we don't have any leaks. Alright, let's move onto that one now. I've also got to transfer the rubber. There's little rubber bases that go on the bottom of the radiator. I'll grab them off the old one and we'll put them on. Alright, so the radiator is sitting in there, not bolted up as yet. I've got the rubber feet on. They don't fit exactly the same as the factory radiator. Bit sloppy, don't quite fit the bottom grooves of the aftermarket one. But anyway, got that middle hose bolted, not bolted on, but strapped on. That one bottom of the radiator, coolant filler there. So I'm just going to go through that one. Alright, now we're just going to fast forward a little bit. It is the next day, and I've made a start on it. So all the radiator hoses are in, and as you can see, the radiator is in. Everything's clamped up. I just need to put that hose on there, and that one on there. Now, when I was dropping this in, don't forget to take the old rubbers, or the rubbers off the old radiator. Those ones just there, can you see that one there? Hopefully that's coming up okay. Now the feet, it's sat on from the aftermarket rad compared to the factory one. Those feet, sorry, I've had you in a bad position there. Those feet don't really fit exactly the same. But it's in there, it's sturdy. So look, if worst comes to worst and I need to reposition the feet a little bit, I can do that once I've got it running and see how it performs. What now? I'm going to drop in the fans, get all that bolted up, finish off those two hoses, and I might be brave enough to put some coolant in and see how many leaks I've got. Alright, so everything is buttoned up. I have started the car. Now I have found one leak, nothing major, just that bottom hard line on the driver's side, just down there, the bottom hard line. It's not going to focus for me. A slight leak there. I have tightened it up a little bit more, but I haven't found any other leaks. Hopefully everything's tight and good. Yeah, so I will run it a little bit later on. I haven't put coolant in. I have put water in, but no coolant, obviously, just in case there was a bad leak. I didn't want to go wasting coolant. But we'll start it up and have a listen. Alright, now that I'm happy with this part of the car at the moment, providing there's no more leaks, we'll move on to finishing off the brakes and getting all that sorted so I can get it back on the wheels. Alright, brakes are on, the pads are on, calipers are on, everything's on, discs are on, you know, blah blah blah. Engine's good, still got that little bit of a, I think it's a tranny line down the bottom. I have tightened it a little bit, but still leaking just a fraction. Need to get in there and give it a real good reef. Not doing that now. That's it for today. That's it. Alright guys, so the bushes have been pressed out of the rear upper control arms. Now, I have never done something like this before, so it was a learning curve for me. So I used a bench press to press those bushes out. Now, it was a good learning curve for me to learn something new. So these are the sleeves. Now, I didn't know this. These sleeves that actually sit inside those control arms, depending on the diameter of your bushes, these need to be pressed out. These are put in at the factory and they need to be pressed out. So it was just a matter of getting a hacksaw into the opening there and put a slice through these sleeves and then punch them out with a hammer and a cold chisel. Now, some of these are easier to get out than others. As you can see, like this one here put up a real fight. Yeah. So it was just a good learning curve. Now what I've done is I've gone through with some sandpaper and I've just sanded out any grooves. You might get some nicks in there. What's a good example? You'll see some grooves in this one where I put the line in to cut it and then knocking it out with the cold chisel, that you might put some grooves in there. So I've just gone through with sandpaper and smoothed out those inside edges just to make them nice and clean, get rid of any burrs. So that way it'll make it a lot easier to push these bushes in. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to put some grease on the on these inside and on the outside of these, push these in, and then go through and push these parts in. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have purchased a press myself just to do this job at home and make life a lot easier for myself. So that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, so I've coated some grease on the outside of that bush, and I've also put some grease on the inside of that sleeve. So now I'm going to take it over to the press and we'll push that one in. Alright guys, so while I've got everything apart, I've decided to go through and replace the rack ends, pardon me, and the tie rods. So that's that's a driver's side pair. Then just over here I've got the passenger side pair. I've measured them up to get the same lengths. Now I do have new boots. They're both in there, so I'll put those on as well. So let's get into that now. Alright guys, it is just getting really frustrating now. It's just been raining now for like the last 3 weeks, on and off, and it's just so hard to get everything done and just show you guys what's happening. So the rack ends are in, new boots, everything like that. It's about to start raining again. I've got this headlight. I took this headlight out and replaced it. That's in a different video, but I'm going to get in there, put it back in. I've cleaned up all the cobwebs and dirt in behind there. It looked absolutely terrible before. So I'm going to do that now, and it's starting to rain again. Let me get into this.